What's going on, everybody? All right, we got to talk about this because, look, I know I'm not a typical movie reviewer. I don't come on here and review movies a lot. There will be times when I will review something that I've seen, something that I really liked, sometimes something that I didn't like, and I will review it. I've done that for quite some time in old podcasts that I've had, whether it was The Remote Control or Bridging the Geekdoms, what have you. I have done that. But there comes a time when somebody says something really, really dumb online where I have to bring it up and say, look, movies are a form of entertainment. Just as any form of entertainment, whether it's video games, whether it's music, or whether it's just something that you would purchase, if it's something that do you like food? Do you like to go to a restaurant? Do you like to go to a certain type of store? You will have an opinion on those types of adventures, on those types of things that you buy. And it is your right to have an opinion on those types of things. Now, this gentleman here, he's a reviewer, and he states that he likes to celebrate film. But yet he doesn't like to criticize film. I don't know how you can be an honest reviewer and not criticize film. I don't think you can consider yourself a reviewer unless you are willing to criticize and talk about the bad as well as talk about the good. Yes, there are going to be times when you have to talk about bad, and there's going to be times when you talk about the good. Well, let's take a look at what he says here.
To myself, probably not going to do a video for this one based on
he's talking about Madam Web here,
since I do try to
obviously
keep it mostly about film celebration on this channel. Having seen the film, I'm going to tell you that this is not a movie review of Madam Web. I am not about bashing filmmakers, artists. I know how hard it is to make a movie. I do not know how hard it is to make a movie under the studio system. I was able to make an indie film without a giant corporation breathing down my neck.
And this is a problem.
The privilege that S.J. Clarkson had when she directed Madam Web
this is a
under
problem.
Sony, which I can only imagine was monumentally difficult. This is not going to be a video about Madam Web and telling you whether or not you should see Madam Web.
Okay, so that's a problem because if you're going to sit there and say you can't review a movie because you have made a movie before, whether it's a big budget movie or a small budget movie, but you can't review a movie because you've made a movie, well then you have to pull yourself out of reviewing any movie at any time, period, end of story, moving forward. You're done. You can't review movies and make a channel about that anymore. Because you can't, just because a movie is bad doesn't mean you can't review it because you've made a movie before. All right. Now, what really, really, really gets on my nerves is you have this other filmmaker, this other man here, Joe Russo, who goes, if you Twitter trolls, and he's on here, you can see it right here. He goes, if you Twitter trolls were like Chris and actually learned how hard it is to make a movie instead of just crying about them from your mom's basement, you too would make videos like this one. And he also goes, the blame the writer thing is bonkers, because he goes, why are my bookmarks all screwed up? This really bothers me. He goes, the people also are blaming the writer of the movie. And he goes, the blame the writer thing is bonkers. Do trolls have jobs with bosses? Are those bosses infallible? Why are we blaming creatives and not executive meddling? I've read Matt's writing on two of these. It's good and not what's on screen. He keeps working because he's great. All right, first off, here are 6 of his movies. Right here, all right, of the writer of Madam Web. One of the writers from Madam Web. Here are 6 of his movies. The Last Witch Hunter, which was terrible. Gods of Egypt, which was terrible. Madam Web, which was terrible. Morbius, which was terrible. And Dracula Untold, which was terrible. Power Rangers, I'll give him a pass because it wasn't that bad. But 1 out of 6 movies wasn't that bad. If you take a look, you start to see a trend of maybe there's an issue. Maybe it is the writer who is a problem with these films. However, yes, you do have the right to criticize a writer of a movie. You know, and that's when I said, look, it's not that hard. Maybe, just maybe, the writer isn't cut out for the business. And his writing doesn't work well with film, maybe. Maybe that's an issue. Maybe his writing or maybe the directors are the issue in bringing his writing to life. Look, we do know that studio executives are a problem when it comes to film. We know that not anybody is going to sit there and say that studio executives don't screw up films from time to time. Look at what happened with Zack Snyder's Justice League. We know that studio execs can mess things up. Nobody is denying that. But let's sit back and realize that the directors, and Madam Web, trust me, there are many issues with that movie that aren't from studio meddling. Many director issues, editing issues that aren't because of the studio. You watch that movie, certain shot decisions, certain decisions with the actors that were directorial directions for the actors. That's not because of the studio. That's directing. And then you take a look at the writing of the script and some of the that is the writing. That's not the studio. Yes, the studio accepted the script and went forward with it. Am I saying that there was no studio meddling? No, we know there was studio meddling in this movie. We know there was. But that wasn't the be-all, end-all of why this movie was bad. Just as it's not the be-all, end-all why bad movies are bad. Sometimes directors suck. It's how it is. Sometimes writers suck. That's how it is. We can't sit back and pussyfoot around and not say a movie sucks because it might hurt somebody's feelings. You can't sit there and say you're a movie reviewer and then not say a movie's bad when it's bad. Or be afraid to say a movie is bad when it's bad because maybe you might just one day get a chance to make a movie for a studio. And if that's the case, if you're afraid of reviewing movies because you want to be a filmmaker, then stop reviewing movies. If your main goal is to make movies and you don't want to risk not being able to make movies, then stop reviewing movies. Because you're doing a disservice to the people who watch you. Because how can anybody trust what you're saying at this point? How can anybody trust? If all it is a celebration and you're just going to celebrate every single piece of shit that comes out, then how can we trust what you're saying is valuable to us? That's not what a reviewer is supposed to do. I get that there are some people who sit in their mom's basements. Absolutely, there are people who sit in their mom's basements and criticize and tear apart and pick apart every single movie. I get it. People do it. That's why I don't like to review movies all the time, because it's tough. It's not an easy thing to do. But we can't sit there and be afraid to do it. We can't be afraid to criticize a movie because it might hurt somebody's feelings. That's how people get stronger from being hurt, from realizing that they screwed up. That's how you get better. That's how you realize you didn't do well, so you have to do better the next time. I don't know why I got so angry about all this. I really don't know. I think it's just the way this world is going. It just infuriates me that people just accept this behavior and accept, look, this movie's bad. Say it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Move on and go on with life. Whatever. Let me know your thoughts. You don't need to tell me what your thoughts are on Madam Web. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. If somebody's going to review a movie or review movies, do you think they should be willing to say if a movie's bad and talk about bad movies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. With all that said, I guess I'll catch you all later.